everyone. This is Stephanie with another Yale Alumni Live. I am very excited to be here today, joined in just a few minutes by Elijah Heyward III, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the International African-American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. We are super excited to talk to Elijah today, just a little bit about his Yale experience. And then later this week, we are going to be live in Charleston, South Carolina with Elijah on the site of the museum that is still currently being built, and he's going to give us a little bit of a behind the scenes tour. So we are very excited to have this opportunity today to talk to Elijah, and then later in the week on Friday to get to see the museum itself. So I'm going to be bringing Elijah on in just a moment. We're going to talk to him about his Yale experiences, and then again later in the week on Facebook we are going to have a live tour from the museum. So you guys are seeing it here first on Yale Alumni Live. We're very excited to talk to him and hear about his Yale journey. So I'm going to look for him in just a second. I'm sure he'll be joining us. It is actually an active construction site in Charleston, so we're very excited that he has agreed to give us this behind the scenes look of the museum itself and get to hear a little bit more about what they're going to be doing in the years to come when they are open to the public. So I see Elijah. I'm going to bring him on now and introduce Elijah to everyone. Just a second, guys. I love on Instagram, and he should be joining any second. I think this is his first Instagram live, so yay! Elijah, hello.
Hey.
I was just telling everybody this. I think this is your first Instagram live, right?
This is my first. I'm excited.
So it's a little bit of a learning curve, I know. And Instagram is so rapidly evolving that they like to throw us off. I used to be able to put behind me a little image of who I was talking to. So I'm going to repeat that for everybody now, since they shot me out of the screen when I started to do that. So got a little awkward for everybody, but for everybody watching, this is Elijah Heyward III. He is the Chief Operating Officer of the International African-American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. We are so excited to have him today. As you guys know, what we like to do on Yale Alumni Live is to have a conversation with a Yalie, learn more about them, and then sometimes, when they allow us, get a sneak peek into their work. And a few months ago, we had Regina Bain, who is the executive director of the Louis Armstrong Museum in Queens. And now we have Elijah, who is going to talk to us a little bit about the International African American Museum. And then later in the week, he's actually going to take us there. So we are super excited to have you, Elijah. Welcome to Yale Alumni Live.
Stephanie, it's good to be here. Thank you again for hosting and this opportunity.
Awesome. So we're going to start the way that we always do, Elijah. We just kind of like to hear a little bit about you and where you grew up and your path to Yale. So I know you have several degrees. You've traveled up and down the East Coast for school. So take us back to where you're from, the schools that you attended, and how you landed at Yale.
So I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina, which is actually about an hour south of Charleston, where I currently live and work now. I attended college at Hampton University in HBCU in Virginia. It was a great experience. I had a cousin that attended there, and ironically, there's a really big connection between my hometown of Beaufort and Hampton. There's a place called the Penn School, which is a school that was founded for newly emancipated enslaved people during the Civil War. And the school functioned over generations through support from Hampton. So professors from Hampton taught at the Penn School. Folks from my community went to Hampton. And in high school, I learned about this amazing connection that really made going there a much more powerful experience by virtue of the fact that the archives had my hometown all throughout, as did the Penn Center's archives as well. So I went to Hampton for college. I studied history there, leadership studies, had a phenomenal experience, was really enthralled by the idea of history, the way that Blackness was foregrounded in the educational experience. It really was a great place to make a lot of friends and really find out ways that I could transform the world in a powerful way, namely through cultural institutions like the Hampton Museum, where my friends and I started the Bigger Circle. So after Hampton, I went to Divinity School at Yale. It wasn't my first choice because I never really saw myself going to Divinity School, but my best friend was applying and recommended it, and I determined that, hey, let's see, why not? It ended up being a phenomenal experience. I think that Yale was the best choice for me because I was always excited about the idea of being at a research institution that had the resources to really support whatever pathway my research might take when I got there. I kind of went as a clean slate, kind of open to what the journey might be. And I found out that when I chose Yale because I wanted to have the ability to kind of to adjust and shift as new ideas kind of came to the forefront. So after Yale, I worked in DC for about 5 years. I started a nationwide college access program called the Youth Scholar Academy. And I actually started the project as a Yale President's Public Service Fellow, moved to DC to get it off the ground. And then after 5 years in DC, I attended UNC-Chapel Hill, where I received a Ph.D. in American Studies, focused on Southern studies, particularly the African-American experience in the South, namely Gullah Geechee culture, my own cultural identity.
So Elijah, I will forgive you for saying that Yale was not your first choice, and I think everyone else will too.
Well, no. Yale was definitely my first choice. Divinity School was my first choice.
Okay. I'm glad you
clarified. It's a little difference there, but no, Yale was definitely the best fit, particularly because of the resources by way of the libraries and all of everything I just named, but also there's an amazing program called the Institute for Sacred Music that infused the arts into the curriculum at YDS. So for me, given that I had a really extensive arts background, it was a perfect fit because I found a way, I really liked the way that I could have a form of discussion around the curriculum that really allowed for expression, particular type of interrogation, and also access to ideas that I think could be approached in a creative way.
I was just teasing you, but I
get it, Stephanie.
I love, I work for the Yale Alumni Association, which encompasses all of the schools at Yale, but Yale Divinity has a special place in my heart because I think it's a very special school. And one of the things—
You're not just saying that because I'm on the call, right?
No.
I'm sure you tell everyone, depending on what school they come from.
I love Yale Divinity School. My good friend Barb Sabia is over there. And we also had one of the people who helped launch Yale Alumni Live, an alum of the Divinity School, is JP Reynolds. And he and I also had a conversation about the Divinity School because there's a lot of, I think, mystery around the Divinity School because people hear Divinity School and they automatically assume that you're going to go and you're going to become a preacher or, you're going to be ordained in some way, shape, or form. And obviously that is not the path that everyone takes, but they do go there for the reasons that you said. And I think it's really important to share that with people because people feel a calling, especially right now. I feel like people feel called to do important work, and that's kind of what I hear coming through. So will you share with us maybe one of your favorite memories from the Divinity School or perhaps a favorite faculty member who we can kind of highlight today?
I just want to just zero in on what you just shared because I think that the hesitation that I alluded to earlier was just that. I think for me, Divinity School always equated to pulpit ministry, which is something that I wasn't against, but I felt like I could really go and have an experience that really have an impact beyond the church. When I was a student there, the tagline was creating leaders for church and world. And I was definitely on the world part because I was really excited about how so many of our historic movements for justice were rooted in faith communities. So going there to learn and to kind of walk away with a framework for public social witness was something that really aligned with my values when I was making a decision to attend. But I don't think it's fair to kind of highlight a particular professor because there's so many great faculty members there. The experience that really stands out is kind of having this intellectual and creative playground that my colleagues and classmates and I really took advantage of. And one such example is that my classmate Meredith Coleman Tobias and we wrote about 2 or 3 plays. And the play was actually a class project that we determined to make into something more interactive and engaging and lasting in a particular way. But it ended up becoming this series of creative expression that we presented to the Yale Divinity School community, but then to a wider audience that engaged the Yale School of Drama. And this conference that Professor Emily Towns hosted, Middle Passage Conversations, it was the culminating event of the conference. So just having the opportunity to, take, what we were learning in the classroom, find an engaged approach to connecting with our community at YDS and beyond, and also really teasing out history and culture in ways that can be lasting and impactful with our classmates. I mean, it was pretty cool, Stephanie, because it was a musical kind of, so there was like a dance component, there's the actual play itself. We did a great deal of extensive research to determine the historical facts, and really we're inspired by the slave ship Clotilda in this place called Africa Town, and the ways in which African identity had been sustained through generations. So finding a vehicle through theater to express that was a key experience, but also speaks to the beauty of YDS and the creative expression and interrogation that the environment allowed for us to really explore.
I love that about Yale too. With the broad diversity of schools that we have, there's just so much opportunity for collaboration. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because we don't always get an opportunity to talk about that because we're so focused on what the individual is saying that we don't get to talk about the awesome cross collaboration at Yale. So
yeah, and I mean that was one of the things that really excited me about my experience as I was thinking about where to attend, is the fact that we had access to the entire Yale community to support our scholarship. So for me, beyond me loving libraries and amazing, institutions and like the Beinecke and others, it was the opportunity to collaborate with with students at the Yale School of Drama, the Art School. I even took a course at the Business School, which is great because I think that it really helped to shape and transform an experience that could be pretty linear into a more dynamic one.
Yeah, I love that. So you kind of lead me to the next question that I have for you is, you talked about loving history, loving libraries. That's a little bit atypical for a young person. I know if Basie Gitlin is watching, he would be so mad at me for saying that, because he's a big library fan too, and also a guest on Yale Alumni Live. But I want to talk just a little bit about your path and your career path, because what I think is so interesting is that you had this love of history and you went to these schools and programs that kind of guided you along in your career. And now here you are at this museum that I'm so excited to talk more about. But talk to us a little bit about your path from those different schools. Do you feel like the schools helped guide you into this career path, or did you just have such a strong love for history that that's kind of how it ended up? Because I know you talked about the museum at Hampton too, which is a big part of your Hampton experience.
Yeah, I mean, I have amazing parents, and the greatest gift that my parents offered to me was being exposed to public institutions. So when I was younger, I was dropped off at the library. I was taken to museums. We engaged with artists and other creative people, and I was taught how these were resources that made up my community. So I learned at an early age that, our community is much larger than our neighborhood, but they are comprised of caring individuals, but also institutions where we can gather to learn and grow. So for me, that early interaction with libraries and museums, such as at Penn Center, really ignited something in me that I've always wanted to harness. And so it kind of followed me to college, where I spent a great deal of time in Hampton's archives and learning about the museum and really using art as a form of intellectual inquiry. But then it became this abiding interest that really led to my interest in youth development. So the basis of the Youth Scholar Academy, which I started as a Yale President's Public Service Fellow with the support of the Institute for Responsible Citizenship, founded by Bill Keyes in Washington, D.C., is the fact that, what would it mean to make New Haven into a learning lab? What would it be to allow for there to be greater access to the Peabody Science Museum, to the Yale Center for British Art, to the Beinecke Rare Book Collection, and for young people to be transformed by virtue of the experience, the way that I was when I was a kid. So I think that all those things became interests that kind of, led to building blocks that led me here. The work that we're doing at the International African-American Museum is really aimed at transforming the way in which we engage history. It's a very challenging story we tell that's one around the African-American journey. It's a journey that's robust, that's beautiful, that begins in Africa, but it's also one that's filled with a great deal of hardship and injustices that we're still working through as a society. So the idea of having a place to do that using media, amazing exhibits, and really creative approaches is really, a dream come true for the kid from Beaufort, South Carolina, that would daydream about books and the ways in which historical actors were able to transform our society through vision and hard work and community.
So Elijah, how many years in the making is this museum? How long has
20 years, about 20 years in the making.
20 years in the making, and you are on the precipice of it. That must be so exciting for you.
It's really exciting. I mean, for me, I'm very close to my family. I think the benefit of growing up in a place where you have both sides of your family in the same community is you have this intergenerational dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, joining the International African Museum is an extension of that, because we have individuals who've been a part of this project since the beginning. Individuals who are in their 90s who are able to really see our community transform and have this vision that they've really worked towards making into a reality in a meaningful way. So it's a really heartening experience, and one that we have to credit thousands of people for, because for 20 years, there have been individuals who have dedicated their time, their resources, and more importantly, their hopes and dreams to envision what this can be. And we are living into that in real time as we prepare to open next year.
That is so exciting. I can only imagine how those people are feeling, how you're feeling to be a part of it. So how long have you been in this role? How did they find you? How did you find them? How did this happen for you?
This all roads lead to Yale, yeah, I guess so. It was actually another Yale alum who alerted me to the opportunity, because
Uh-oh, I think we might have lost Elijah. There he goes. We lost you for a second, Elijah.
Okay, am I back?
Sorry, we lost you for a second. I'm going to have you go back. Tell us where it started.
I was just going to say that all roads lead to Yale. And I was actually introduced to this opportunity by a Yale alum from the School of Public Health. We were friends during my time at YDS, and we kind of lost touch, but reconnected after a decade. And, she encouraged me to look into the opportunity, and here we are.
Wow. So how long have you been in this role?
I started working in August of 2018.
Okay, so you're almost 2.5 years
Almost
into
2.5
this.
years in, yes.
And do you guys have a date for opening in 22?
We don't. I think we do, but I won't. You can't hold me to it. But I think that we're really excited that by the end of 2022 we'll be open. But definitely probably the second and third quarter.
It's so exciting. So
Yeah.
you said something earlier about how you were often brought to libraries and museums, and I have to tell you right now, I'm really missing that ability to go to those places and do those
Me
things
too.
the way that we used to be able to. So I'm sure that you guys have given some thought to what that's going to look like. Hopefully next year will be much more like 2019, what we were used to, the way we could engage with the public and institutions in our communities. But have you guys given any thought to, how you're going to fill that void that's been missing for, 2 years now at that point?
I'm really happy that we are part of an amazing landscape of museums and cultural institutions who are navigating this very question in real time. I would say that, my colleagues at Yale are great examples of this, but I think we're all considering what adjustments should be made to ensure that the visitor experience is one that's safe, but also equally impactful. For us, we're currently not open, but we always envision being a museum beyond walls. How do we reach individuals who, by virtue of mobility impairment or just sheer distance, aren't able to engage with us in real time? So for us, it's important to have resources that are available online for that to happen. There's an amazing website called Google Arts and Culture that allows for you to visit museums around the world. And I think that during this pandemic, I myself have really enjoyed the virtual visitor experience and ways in which we were able to connect. So, for me, I imagine that by the time we open, although we'll be able to gather, hopefully safely, and engage in the visitor experience in real time, physically, there's an amazing asset that we've been exposed to during this time by way of virtual experiences that will hope to augment an already transformative experience.
Yeah, we're really excited that you are willing to bring us to the museum on Friday. So for anybody watching, we're going to be visiting the International African-American Museum on Friday at 4 p.m. on the Yale Alumni Facebook group, and you can always check out the link in our bio to how to find that. So Elijah, tell us just a couple of the key cornerstones of the museum. I know that you have a few very specific points that you are hoping to meet with the museum's opening. Tell us about those.
There are three pillars of our institution. We have a Center for Family History, which is really aimed at being a preeminent genealogical research center for all Americans, but with a particular focus on the African-American community. Genealogy is an area that is often a challenge by virtue of the law of 1870 that makes family research a bit of a challenge for African-Americans. So for us, the goal is to have an on-site library experts, but also resources that are aimed at helping to transform that experience, which we're really, really excited about that. Because you come to the museum, you really engage with our exhibits, and you walk away, inspired. The Center for Family History allows for visitors to have something tangible to take with them by virtue of that inspiring experience that exhibits will offer. So that's a key pillar. The other key pillar is our African Ancestors Memorial Garden. It's designed by MacArthur Genius Award recipient Walter Hood. And it's amazing because there's a way in which the grounds are really the focal point for our visitor experience. It's the reason why our museum is located where it's being built. It's amazing that from our site, you can see Fort Sumter, where the Civil War started. You can see Sullivan's Island, a point of quarantine for African captives before coming to the shores of Charleston. Well, I guess, mainland Charleston. But you also have the pathway that slave ships took to get to our location. So there are all these key ways in which the landscape offers a didactic entryway into the visitor experience. But the most important piece is that our museum is located at the former Gadsden's Wharf. Gadsden's Wharf was a site where African captives were first brought, where they were sold, where many died. It was also the largest wharf during the colonial period. And Charleston was the wealthiest city for a number of years. So, there's a way in which this sacred ground offers an opportunity to reinterpret history from a standpoint of agency and reclaiming a very horrific and challenging and really burdensome, narrative for African Americans as a point of pilgrimage to connect with ancestors and also to celebrate the triumphs of our community. So for us, we're just thrilled that the African Ancestors Memorial Garden is being interpreted as a memorial, a place of engagement, but also a place to connect us to the African diaspora through vegetation, through plant life and steles and other forms of interrogation to really bring home our mission of uncovering untold stories related to the African American journey.
Incredible, Elijah. I can see why this is 20 years in the making, how it's such a
I forgot
project.
I only gave you two pillars. The third
okay,
pillar
give me one more. Give me one more.
Is the museum itself. It's an amazing it's amazing collection of galleries, of artifacts, of media installations, all aimed at really exploring the African American journey. It's a journey that begins in Africa, has a touch point in Charleston, then has a global impact that really is still being felt around the world. So we're just thrilled to have such a dynamic opportunity to share a story that all should know, and it should really be heralded in a really important way.
And if I'm not mistaken, there is another Yale connection to an artist, correct, with the museum? A young lady? Am I not allowed to say that? Am I jumping the gun?
Oh, sure. Who's the artist?
So, isn't there an undergraduate Yale photographer?
Oh, yes. Sydney Holmes is an amazing photographer who actually we commissioned to take family portraits for our Center for Family History. Sydney has an amazing, IG. I wish I knew it now so I could actually share it. But more importantly, she's a young African-American photographer who's doing important work and aligns with our vision for our institution of being a place where we are able to seek really creative ways to interpret history. And what's fascinating is that, I want to put her in the tradition of James Van Der Zee and others who had portrait studios that really captured African-American life. So I'm just thrilled that, we are able to work with her and to have her creative spirit be a part of the important mission that we're upholding here in Charleston.
And she's a current Yale student, so we will try and tag her Instagram for everyone to check out her work.
Please,
yes,
please follow her, please support her. She's doing amazing work.
We love it. We love our Yale family so much. So Elijah, I think we're coming to the end of our time together, but I'm excited that we're going to be back together on Friday. So I just have one last question for you, and it's kind of not an overly personal question, but what are you most excited about, you personally? Like what? When that day comes and you cut the ribbon and the museum is open, like what are you most looking forward to?
So I'm going to go back to being the kid that spent so much time in museums and libraries when I was growing up. The key things I remember is feeling safe, feeling excited about how big the world felt as a kid and feeling connected to something that was really important. And so for me, the thing that I'm really most excited about are sharing our museum experience with two generations, my grandmother and my godkids. You know, they're kind of the two bookends for me. And there's a way in which, for my grandmother, I think that, you know, I'm excited for her to really, she's the oldest living member of my family right now. And my immediate family, that is. But I'm excited for her to just kind of experience, you know, the history that we are sharing in real time as someone that has not fully felt seen in public institutions. I think that's something we're working towards, is helping that to be something that's not an issue with our institution. And then for my god kids, you know, I don't have kids yet. One day I will, but I don't have kids yet. But for them to actually run around and really kind of feel the way that I felt when I went to libraries and museums when I was their age, a feeling of feeling safe, of feeling inspired, and feeling connected to something that's bigger than them.
Oh, Elijah, I look forward to that moment for you. As, you know, an events person, I spent a lot of years, you know, producing events, and there's always that moment where you just stop, you stand back, and you see what you've created. And I think that's going to just be so special.
Yeah, and again, I can take no credit for this alone because I'm a part of an amazing team. You know, this has been 20 years in the making. So there's so many individuals, namely our founder and visionary, Mayor Joseph Riley, and our board, and the amazing staff that currently works day in and day out to make this vision a reality. So I think that, you know, I'm a part of a chorus of people who are all thrilled and excited to introduce our institution to the world. And so I'm just grateful, Stephanie, for this opportunity to share briefly about who we are. And on Friday to offer a bit of a preview to this amazing, you know, institution that so many are carrying and working so hard to make into a reality.
We're so grateful to you for giving us the opportunity to be a part of it. And we do have a Yale Club of Charleston, so they're going to have to be on the list to get in there. See if I can finagle a trip once we're allowed to leave our living room.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Elijah, for your time today. I'm so excited to be back with you and your team on Friday. So for anybody who's watching, come back on Friday.
Please, join us
Yale
on Friday.
Alumni. Yeah, Facebook group. We're going to be getting a little behind the scenes peek at the International African American Museum with Elijah, who is the COO, Yale Divinity 2007. Thank you, Elijah. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you on Friday. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
This wasn't too bad from our first experience. This is great, you know?
I told you. It was casual and fun. We're all friends here.
I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thanks, Elijah. Bye, everybody.